She never expected to uncover a family's secret hidden for generations. But when Olivia climbed into her dusty attic, she found an old diary that seemed impossibly familiar. Each word felt alive, each entry unnervingly specific. And the last page described her life today, down to the smallest detail. And when she read the final line, her heart stopped. Hello, my friends. I am Olivia, and this is Olivia's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I had always loved the quiet rhythm of my apartment, the way the morning sunlight slanted across the wooden floorboards, catching dust motes like tiny golden fireflies. My life was simple, maybe too simple, some might say mundane. I worked at a small publishing house, spent evenings curled up with books, and rarely ventured beyond the predictable patterns of my weeks. Yet, despite this calm surface, a subtle ache had been nesting in my chest for years, a longing for something extraordinary, though I wasn't sure what it was. That Saturday, I decided to tackle the attic. I'd been avoiding it for months, letting boxes of forgotten family mementos stack into teetering piles. There was a faint, musty scent in the air, a mixture of old paper, cedar, and something I couldn't name. Each step I took on the creaking boards felt like entering a different world, one that belonged to generations I never truly knew. My fingers brushed against a stack of old trunks and cardboard boxes until a small, leather-bound book fell into my lap. Its cover was cracked and worn, and a thin layer of dust rose like a whisper around me. The handwriting on the front, delicate and looping, read Clara Beaumont, 1912-1980, my great-grandmother's name. Curiosity made my pulse quicken. I opened the diary, flipping past the brittle pages, skimming entries about weddings, births, and garden parties. Then I froze. One entry, dated exactly 100 years ago, made my breath hitch. The words described a day eerily like mine, the sunlight streaming through a window just like mine, the exact scent of old paper in the air, even the sound of the old wooden floor beneath her feet. My heartbeat echoed in the empty attic. The entries grew stranger. She wrote about a feeling she couldn't name, a subtle tug towards something unseen, something inevitable. And then I reached the last page. My fingers trembled as I traced the words. It began normally enough, like any diary entry, observations, small worries, fleeting joys. But halfway down the page, I stopped. Every detail she wrote mirrored my own life today, my morning coffee, my plans to sort through the attic, even my subtle longing for a life that felt larger than the walls around me. I leaned closer, whispering her words to myself, my voice trembling. How could she have known? How could someone who passed decades before I was born describe this exact moment? And then I reached the final line. It was a sentence that chilled me to my core, a sentence that seemed to lift from the page and hover in the stale attic air, waiting for me to breathe it in. The words ended with, "The words on that final page lingered in the attic air, vibrating against my chest like a secret meant only for me." I blinked, trying to steady my racing heart. How could my great-grandmother have written this? How could someone who had passed decades before my birth describe me so precisely? My thoughts, my routines, even the subtle ache in my chest that I had never dared to name aloud. Shivering, I sank to the floor, clutching the diary to my lap as if it were a lifeline. The attic felt suddenly smaller, almost sentient, as though it was holding its breath, waiting to see what I would do next. The late afternoon sun slanted through the dusty window, painting my hands and the pages in a golden glow that made the ink shimmer like it was alive. I read the final line again. This time, my lips moved in a whisper, and when the one who will change everything steps into her life, she will finally understand the path written before her. My mind reeled. Who? Who could she have meant? My life had been quiet, uneventful. There was no someone who could upend it, at least not that I had ever noticed. And yet, a shiver of anticipation ran through me. I had spent years yearning for something extraordinary, something beyond the rhythm of books and coffee cups, and suddenly it felt like the universe, or my great-grandmother, was promising that it was about to arrive. I pressed the diary to my chest, my pulse quickening. The attic, once a space of forgotten memories, had transformed into something sacred, something almost alive with possibility. Shadows stretched across the walls as the sun dipped lower, and in that quiet, suspended moment, I swore I heard a faint, almost imperceptible sigh. It was as if the house itself had been waiting for me to uncover this secret. I closed my eyes, trying to breathe, trying to make sense of what I had just read. Questions tumbled through my mind in a restless torrent. Was it fate? A curse? Or had my great-grandmother somehow glimpsed the future, threading her life into mine across the decades? Every logical part of me wanted to dismiss it as coincidence, but my heart, my foolish, hopeful heart, would not be silenced. Suddenly, the wooden attic door creaked behind me. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. No one else should be up here. The house was quiet, empty. Yet the sound had been unmistakable, deliberate, measured. I clutched the diary tighter and whispered, almost to myself, "Who's there?" The air shifted. I felt a presence, a subtle, almost electric weight pressing against the back of my neck. My pulse hammered, my hands trembling as I dared to glance over my shoulder. The shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally, reaching toward me. And then, just at the edge of my vision, I saw it. A figure, a person standing silently in the doorway, watching. I gasped, and the diary slipped slightly from my hands, thudding softly against the floor. My heart raced, a mixture of fear and an inexplicable recognition. Something about this person felt familiar, like I had known them before I even saw them. And then, in a voice that seemed to echo both in the room and inside my mind, the figure said my name. The sound of my own name, spoken softly but with an unfamiliar weight, made the hair on my arms stand on end. My legs trembled, rooted to the dusty floor, as I tried to make sense of the figure in the doorway. It wasn't a shadow exactly, but not fully solid either, like a memory someone had stepped out of, or a dream that had decided to take form. Who are you?" I managed to whisper, my voice barely audible. The diary, forgotten for a moment, still rested at my feet, its pages fluttering slightly as if stirred by an unseen breath. The figures stepped closer, and with each step, an odd sense of déjà vu wrapped around me, curling into my chest like a familiar melody I couldn't place. And then the voice spoke again, softer this time, almost a murmur. "Olivia, it's me. I've been waiting." My mind spun. Me? Waiting? For what? And then the strangest thing happened. As the figure moved closer, I caught a glimpse of a familiar feature, something achingly human, something that made my breath hitch. A smile that seemed to belong in an old photograph. Eyes that reflected something I had never seen in anyone else, yet felt inexplicably familiar. I stumbled back, tripping over a box, and the diary fell open again at my feet. My eyes were drawn involuntarily to the final page, where the last line shimmered in the slanting sunlight. And when the one who will change everything steps into her life, she will finally understand the path written before her. Could it be this person? No, that made no sense. Yet every instinct in my body, the same one that had ached for something extraordinary, shouted yes. My chest tightened as the figure paused, standing silently, waiting for me to speak. I don't understand, I stammered, my voice catching. Why are you here? What does this diary mean? The figure took another step forward, closer now, and I could see the faint glint of recognition in their eyes. It's always been written, Olivia. Every choice you've made, every lonely moment, every time you wondered if your life could be more, it's all connected. And now, the time has come. A shiver ran through me. The attic felt smaller, almost suffocating, and yet alive with anticipation. I reached for the diary instinctively, flipping to the final page once more. The words seemed to glow faintly, as if acknowledging the presence of this person. I realized, with a sudden, dizzying clarity, that this was the moment my great-grandmother had predicted. The one who would change everything was here, standing in my attic, watching me, waiting for me to step into the path that had been laid out a century ago. My heart pounded. Fear, wonder, and an unnameable thrill collided inside me. I wanted to speak, to ask questions, to run, but something deep and unshakable held me in place. And then, just as I opened my mouth, the figure reached out, and their hand hovered inches from mine. At that moment, a memory, a vision, a whisper from the past seemed to rush through me. A life I hadn't lived yet, a story I had always been destined to follow. And then, the figure said, with a voice that trembled like mine, "Olivia, it's time you saw the truth." My chest ached as I stared at the figure before me, trying to reconcile the impossible. Every rational thought screamed that this couldn't be real, yet every heartbeat, every pulse of electricity in the attic insisted otherwise. The diary's words, once a mystery, now felt like a living thread connecting me to this moment, connecting me to them. Who, who are you, really? I whispered, my voice trembling. The figure's eyes softened, and a small, sad smile tugged at their lips. I am someone you already know, someone you've always carried with you in ways you didn't understand. And then, slowly, they removed the hood that had shadowed their face. My breath caught. It was impossible. It couldn't be. Yet every detail, the shape of the eyes, the tilt of the jaw, the faint laugh lines that mirrored my own, told me the truth. It was me, or rather, someone who was me, but not quite. A version of my life I had never lived, yet had somehow existed, recorded in the pages of a diary a century ago. My great-grandmother's words had been a bridge, a guide, showing me the path that intertwined my past, present, and this extraordinary moment. Why now? I asked, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. Why are you here? Because you needed to see it, the figure said softly. You needed to understand that your life, every choice and every longing, was never random. You are part of a story that began long before you, and now it's time to embrace it, to live fully without fear. A warmth spread through me, a mixture of relief, wonder, and awe. The attic, once small and confining, now felt expansive, almost infinite. I reached out, and our hands touched. The contact sent a shiver up my spine, not of fear, but of recognition, of connection. In that moment, I understood. The diary wasn't just a record of my great-grandmother's life. It was a map, a prophecy, and a promise. I think I understand, I whispered, my voice breaking. You're showing me that my life, it matters, that I matter, that I can be extraordinary. The figure smiled, nodding. Exactly. And it all begins now, Olivia, with you choosing to step forward. I clutched the diary to my chest, my eyes glistening with tears of both disbelief and hope. The words that had once seemed like a warning or a riddle now felt like a benediction. I had spent so long waiting for something extraordinary, and now I realized it had been here all along, woven into my life, waiting for me to see it. The figure faded slowly, like morning mist lifting under the sun, leaving me alone in the attic. But I no longer felt lonely. I felt ready. I felt seen. I felt alive. And as I held the diary close, I whispered into the empty space, "Thank you, great-grandmother, for showing me my path." For the first time in my life, I understood that the extraordinary isn't always something that happens to us. Sometimes it's something we are destined to see, to recognize, and finally to embrace. And in that quiet attic, surrounded by dust and sunlight, I stepped into my life in a way I had never dared before. The diary lay open on my lap, its final line glowing faintly in the golden light. She has found her way at last.